Okay guys, for our third video, although you may not be watching those in the same order, I want to take a little bit of time to talk about IEEE format when it comes to graphics and charts. Now, IEEE often uses graphics and charts within an essay, a feasibility report, a memo, whatever it is you're trying to illustrate. And as mostly engineering majors, you're going to be utilizing IEEE in ways that you want to visualize things for your audience. And remember that those audiences, those audience members may or may not be also engineers. So what you're trying to do is make it a quick and easy way for them to visualize the numbers or charts or graphics of things that you're trying to get across. So I have here an example, a student example, and this happens to be from a feasibility report, in which a student is discussing the problems with a website, and it happens to be the Writing Center. And they're illustrating here how the Writing Center at the University of North Carolina is better for some particular reason. So I've got a picture here that you can see in front of you, and that's a screenshot that they've taken from the website. And there are three elements, most often there are three elements that you're going to need to label a graphic, a chart, a picture, anything like that. As you can see here, the first element is always a label figure 1, figure 2. Sometimes you'll see picture 1 or chart 1, chart 2, and so on. This happens to be her second figure that she's illustrating. So that's the first thing that you need to have is a label, right? Figure 1, figure 2. The second thing here is this middle part. Let me highlight that so you can see which part I'm talking about. That's this part here. Okay. And that, well, let's leave it that way. All right, so that part is to show you, to tell you, right, what is this thing? Well, you need some sort of a description. Usually short, sometimes you need a couple of sentences, but something that's very concise that says this is what you are seeing here. The third thing, and this is the one is usually there, but not always, and I'll explain, and that is your citation. Notice in IEEE it is brackets, not parentheses, brackets. And that means that it is found, this chart or graph or picture or whatever it is that I'm showing you here came from number 2. Now I have here right up front the references list. So if I really were going down to the bottom to find out where did they get this from, I can see that they found it. Well, she's got this a little off. There we go. So this should be found in source number 2. So if I want to figure out where it came from, there's the information about where it came from. So again, those are the three elements of a chart. Now, the reason that the third one is potentially not there is occasionally, you're engineering, you might be creating your own graphics or charts or information. You might be creating a widget of some kind or a software of some kind and doing the testing yourself and coming up with those numbers or charts. So, or you might even be taking a picture of the widget that you've created and say, this is my picture. In which case, this labeling part in the middle would indicate that. This is a picture of my project in phase 2. This is what you are seeing here is, blah, blah, blah. And then you won't have a citation because it didn't come from an outside source, it came from you. Okay, so pretty simple. Let me go to something else here just to show you where you might be able to find more. And again, remember we talked about the first element of a chart graph or whatever it is that you're showing is that figure 1, figure 2, chart number 1, graph number 1. And here's why. Because when you're creating something that's a longer type of work, perhaps several pages long, you might refer to a figure or a chart multiple times within your essay. Or your report. And so here's ways in which that might look within the paper itself, right? So you might say somewhere else in the paper, your picture might be in one section of the paper that's relevant, but you might want to refer back to it at some other point, and you could say, as illustrated in figure 1. Okay, so they're going to say it's on page 5. Here's figure 1. So as illustrated in. Okay, and that's how IEEE will refer you back to specific things they want you to take a look at. Or another way, as presented in, or as seen in. And you might see they've got different ways of looking at it. Figure 1, table 1, equation number 2. And that's the way you can refer back to something within the same document. Okay, now another way for you to take a look at ways to find information, let me get rid of that. Get rid of that. We don't need this anymore. Oops, I guess you don't need to see emails either, do you? Oh, well, I don't have it up in front of me. Let's pull it up for you. So if I wanted to find IEEE information, I would always go to the OWL. And so I would type in OWL, IEEE, and then I would find charts or graphs, right? I want to see more information. And you're going to always have this thing pop up first. The OWL is frequently the first thing that pops up in Google. And you're going to see, as I've mentioned before, a huge chunk of information about IEEE that pops up over here. But I want to point you to the tables, figures, and equations section. If you want to see a little bit more about it, if you want the context, the information more in depth, this is where you're going to find those informations. They're going to talk you through, what's the difference between a figure and an equation, and how might I chart or document that. Okay, so that's what we have for you today. Another quick and easy way to do that, and we'll see you again next time.